Welcome to the show, guys. Happy Tuesday. I'm going to give you guys count them, 5 must-adds at the waiver wire position. Now, I'm excited to dive into this show and give you guys these names because they are trending upwards. So if you guys have a person in your league that owns these players, you may want to consider trading for them because there is some upside. But remember, don't give up too much because these guys are just budding up. They're not necessarily going to, continue and sustain, but they could. That's why I like them so much, because I think there's some upside here. They're not just going to be maybe a one-week wonder. There's some upside that they could continue to do well. So 5 must-add waiver wire pickups on this show. If you're new to the channel, guys, smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up, really helps the channel, and drop your question below. If you have a waiver wire question or a trade question, drop it below. I'll try to get to as many as I can here today, all right? And very important, guys, hit the thumbs up, smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up, show your energy, show your line mentality here. We're heading into fantasy football. Can you believe it? Week 7 is upon us. I want to get you guys prepared, okay? So let's dive into these names, all right? Let's go right to it. The first guy here is Sean Tucker, 5'10", 205 pounds out of Syracuse. Now, if you guys listen to this channel, you know I talked about this guy last year. The problem was at the NFL Combine, they determined that he did have a heart condition. Now, I looked more into this, and they don't divulge too much information on Sean Tucker's heart condition, but to my understanding, I think he's good now because he's doing really well. 14 attempts, 136 yards, 9.7 yards per carry, and a tutty for 34 fantasy points last week. Now, heading into week 7, you got to understand that White isn't that good. That's why Bucky Irving was getting a lot of volume, and now Tucker has emerged. Now, is this guy going to be the starter out of the gate? Not necessarily, but what I'm saying is it doesn't hurt to have depth on that roster because he was given the torch and he ran with it, like literally. Now, if you look at the same guy, same team, Bucky Irving also had 14 attempts, but averaged 5.8 yards per carry, which isn't bad as well. A guy like Rachaad White could probably average like 2-point-something yards per carry on this team. He's just not as good. So Sean Tucker's just a guy you want to acquire, you want to look to get to add depth to that thin running back committee that you probably have now, because running backs are just few and far between. They're just a hot commodity right now. Not a lot of people can get them. So Sean Tucker, make sure you just get him. He outworked Bucky Irving. They both had the same amount of attempts, and Sean Tucker looked better out of the two. So how that's going to translate from a team perspective, are they going to use him more? Nobody really knows, but it's worth just grabbing him onto your roster, okay? Number 2 here, Tyrone Tracy. Now, Tyrone Tracy, 22 points this past week, 17 attempts, a touchdown, only 2.9 yards per carry. A lot of good, right? A lot of volume, but only 2.9 yards per carry. Now, Suckletary has been missing time. He was out 2 games. And Suckletary wasn't doing the greatest when he was playing, okay? So he had a couple good games, like decent, viable games, but on a game-to-game basis, you have some upside here with Tyrone Tracy because Suckletary was never a true RB1. So now, what do we know about Tyrone Tracy? He's 5'11", 210. He was a 5th-round pick. Okay, in college, he averaged 6.7 yards per carry and had 18 touchdowns the past season, but it was never a true workhorse. Now, he played a bunch of years in college, and I think he was on multiple teams. Now, again, I go back and I kind of trace how good were they in college. He wasn't a sensational standout where he's like, oh man, this guy was like, the Zeke Elliott of 2016. But, there is some upside here because Suckletary has been banged up and he's just not that good. And that is something you look for. And I look to attempt to do that when I was doing my drafts. I looked like there's a lot of fake RB1s, guys like Zach Moss, guys like Suckletary, for example, guys like Rachaad White. These guys shouldn't be ones. Who is their backup? And I looked at that when I was drafting. So a couple of these guys, including Bucky Irving, were stashed on my roster. But a guy like Tyrone Tracy, I mean, why not? Why not? He had 17 attempts last game with Suckletary out. Even if Suckletary's in, now he's kind of made a case that he could continue to perform. So Tyrone Tracy, make sure you consider rostering him. The next one is Kamani Vidal. Now, it's Vidal. It could be like Vidal, like a video, or Vidal, like, VI, like VI, you emphasize the Vi, and Dal. I call him Vidal, like a video, Vidal. Okay, anyway, Kamani Vidal, 13 points last game, 11 attempts, Not the greatest, 2.8 yards per carry. He did have his receiving touchdown. It was his first touchdown in the NFL. Congratulations to him. Good stuff. Now, moving forward, Gus Edwards is out. So there's automatically a void for him to get work. Now, J.K. Dobbins has shown us an injury history like no other. This guy gets hurt a lot. The fact that he's actually made it to week 7 is phenomenal. So there's a huge opportunity for Vidal to really, really thrive this year. The opportunity is knocking. They're now getting him worked in. They're getting him integrated. And as soon as Dobbins goes down, boom, Vidal takes the top of the depth chart. And again, Gus Edwards being on IR, he's already going to make a case for himself already. So Kamani Vidal, look to target him. Again, had a decent game. He was a 6th-round pick, not the highest draft capital pick, but the 11 attempts and that receiving touchdown shows that there is something there budding and in the works. Now, out of these 3 running backs, Tucker, Tyrone, Vidal, it's tough, man. I think Vidal is kind of like the safest floor. He's going to get the work regardless. It may not be as much work as some of the other guys potentially, but he's kind of in line as the 2 that's going to get worked in immediately. Whereas a Tucker, more upside, could take the RB1 job, but you got Bucky Irving, you got maybe Rashad White coming back. Tyrone, same thing. They're going to kind of give it back to Singletary when he comes back, right? So I think Vidal is kind of like that safest out of those guys, okay? But all 3 of these guys are good depth pieces to the running back room in 2024, all right? We got 2 more here. These guys, you definitely want to target them. I'll tell you why. There's a ton of upside moving into the rest of the season, so make sure you target them. Before I get to that, guys, head on over to mybookie.ag and use promo code FFC. This is a site I use, a site I trust for all my bets. Head on over to mybookie.ag, and now, guys, if you register using FFC, they will match your deposit. If you put 100 in, you get 100. If you put 200 in, you get another 200. It's like playing with house money, right? And they'll double it up to $1,000, okay? So mybookie.ag, that's the site I use, site I trust. Go right now and use code FFC. Amazing site, the site I use. And I've also created a course now, Counselor's Edge, where somebody just DM'd me and they're like, dude, I'm cashed out at 11K. He had all the picks right. It was amazing. He had one more pick with the Buffalo game. I'm like, dude, don't do it. You might as well just cash out. And sure enough, you know, we're lucky that he did because he did well, 11K. And he's like, yeah, just feel free to use my testimonial, man. Your picks are great. I pretty much only missed 2 or 3 picks this week, which was phenomenal. So Counselor's Edge, get it below. But the site you want to be playing on is mybookie.ag. FFC is the code, all right? All right, let's talk about number 4. This is a big one here. And there's a ton of upside. I'll tell you why. Is Demario Douglas. Now, with the new rookie quarterback and Drake, you got some upside here. 9 targets, 6 receptions. He had a tutty, 21.2 fantasy points. Now, some people are saying, well, Paul could be the one. Very well possible, but he had less targets. He had 4 targets, 1 reception compared to the 9 targets, 6 receptions. I think Demario Douglas is more of a dynamic player, and he is the guy I would probably look to target from the Patriots because once you have a quarterback change, you immediately look like, who is he targeting? Who is he going to? And it looks like Demario Douglas is the one. So pretty amazing stuff that Demario Douglas had 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 21 points with his first game with his rookie quarterback. So that is really promising in a year where there's not a lot of consistency at the wide receiver position, even with some big names, okay? So even a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown has been taking the back seat many weeks for Jameson Williams, right? There's no guarantee. So there's a little bit of a bright spot here with Demario Douglas moving forward for the rest of the season. He's a must-have for waiver wire week 7. And the last one here is Romeo Doubs. Listen, I told you he's the one. He proved he's the one this past week with Jordan Love at full strength, going to him for the 2 touchdowns, 4 targets. Now, Reed was 6 for 6 targets, 6 receptions. You could say that he was more targeted than Doubs. Doubs outdid him with the touchdown, but you got to take a look, man. He's looking at him in the red zone. Wicks was banged up. Wicks was always the wide receiver 4. Now with Watson back, Wicks takes a back seat. Romeo Doubs emerges, and a healthy Love, he's relying on Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs is suspended, probably bitter because he wasn't getting the ball because he is the true one. Had a rough start to the season, and a big part of that was Jordan Love was injured. He's back. His swagger's back. He's got that, and Romeo Doubs is a guy you definitely want to get on your rosters moving forward. But again, you're looking at a ton of teams with a ton of wide receiver roulette, so you always have to be cautious when you're drafting or picking up anybody these days. I go back to my other video. I talk about this, how these prop sites I feel are manipulating our certainty at positions where the wide receiver 1 and the RB1 are going the way of the dinosaur. That's why I love having Derrick Henry on a lot of my rosters, because he gives me that consistent staple to my roster. I know what I'm getting out of him, where I don't got to worry as much about a committee, okay? So, Sean Tucker, Tyrone Tracy, Kamani Vidal, Demario Douglas, and Romeo Doubs, all must-adds for waiver wire week 7. If you have any starts and sits questions, or if you have any waiver wire questions, drop them below. I'll try to get to as many as I can. But remember, head on over to mybookie.ag, use code FFC, and create an account, guys. Put your deposit. They'll match up to 100%. This is the site I use. Get in on the action. And my advice, get my picks below. All right, guys, I appreciate it. I love you guys. It means a lot to me. And we're heading into NFL Week 7. Smash or tap it, slap it. We'll talk soon. I'm out.